speculation rising of an imminent U.S. attack on the Islamic Republic. President Trump says he's been told the killing of protesters in Iran has stopped, despite the facts reported on the ground directly contradict this. And the internet remains cut off. We have more from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
President Trump said last night that Washington received what he called quite definitive information that Tehran has halted mass killings and will not carry out executions.
Just gotten to me some information that the killing has stopped, that the executions have stopped. They're not going to have an execution, which a lot of people were talking about for the last couple of days. Today was going to be the day of execution.
The Iranian foreign minister confirmed there would be no hanging.
No, I haven't heard about that, and there is no any hanging today or tomorrow or whatever. That's
Friday?
I can tell you, I'm confident about that. There is no plan for hanging at all.
Human rights groups now report more than 2,500 have been killed and over 18,000 arrested in Iran's crackdown, with Israeli intelligence believing the true number is far higher. Earlier in the week, Trump said help was on the way. Now the U.S. president took a wait-and-see approach.
We're going to watch and see what the process is, but we were given a very good statement by people that are aware of what's going on.
Trump's comments come as assessments mount that the U.S. military is preparing for strikes on Iran in the coming days. According to Reuters, 2 European officials say preparations for U.S. intervention is underway. An Israeli official confirmed the assessment, saying it appears President Trump has decided to act, even as the scope and timing remain unclear. Iran is responding to a potential U.S. strike with threats. A senior Iranian official warns that any U.S. strike could trigger attacks on American bases across the region and could also target Israel. Signs of coming war are there. The airspace over Iran is nearly empty. The United States has begun withdrawing some personnel from key bases in the region. At Ul Adid Air Base in Qatar, the largest U.S. base in the Middle East, some personnel were advised to leave. Britain is taking similar precautionary steps. Washington's next steps remain unclear. The Israeli security establishment is watching developments closely, knowing that any shift in Iran's internal crackdown or a U.S. decision on force could rapidly alter the situation in Israel.
And here in Israel last night, the crisis in Iran felt anything but distant. Hundreds gathered for a rally in support of Iranians risking their lives for freedom. ILTV's India Naftali was at the scene.
I'm here in Israel at a rally in support of the people of Iran, where hundreds of Israelis have gathered tonight to show support for the protesters facing a violent crackdown by the regime. Many tell me they feel a deep connection to what's unfolding just across the region.
The rally brought together Israelis and members of the Persian Jewish community, standing side by side to support Iranians who have been on the streets for more than 2 weeks, demanding regime change.
As someone who was born and raised in Iran, I have a strong connection to my homeland, and we are here today in solidarity of our people who are fighting one of the most brutal regimes in history.
Chants filled the square. Protesters waved Israeli and Iranian flags, held up posters, and called for the end to the violence inside the Islamic Republic. Some carried signs reading, "Don't be scared, we're all together." And "We the Jewish people stand with Iranians. Free Iran." Others set fire to images of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, a symbolic act meant to show defiance against a regime that rules through fear.
I tell you one thing. When I was a child, when I used to go to school in Iran, in front of our school door, there was an Israeli flag, and we have to walk over it every day. Every morning, we had to chant, "Death to Israel." But today, you see the rallies of Iranians in London, in Los Angeles, in Berlin. What other flag you see? Israelis. When the whole world has shut down their eyes toward us, to our people, the only Israeli people are side by side of us.
Some members of Israel's Iranian-born community say they have family and friends still inside the country and have been desperately trying to follow events as communications inside Iran remain restricted. Iran's leadership is now struggling to contain what both Iranian officials and Western governments have described as the most serious domestic unrest since the 1970s. 1979 Islamic Revolution. The demonstrations began first as protests over soaring prices and economic hardship, but quickly turned into open calls for the fall of the clerical system that has ruled the country for more than 4 decades.
I say to the regime, your time is up.
For those here, tonight was about making sure the voices of Iranians are not lost amidst the violence and the politics, and that their calls for change continue to be heard beyond Iran's borders.
All right, well, joining us now to discuss the current situation in Iran and the possible next moves of the United States is Ari Aramesh, a national security expert and political analyst based in Washington. Ari, thank you so much for joining us today. To start, what is your take on Trump's latest comments that seem to be backing off of military intervention after only days before encouraging Iranians to take to the streets? Is this part of a strategy?
Good to be with you, Emily. Trump is being Trump. On the one hand, he has posted on social media and he's made clear declarations of support. He said if they shoot, meaning the regime, if they shoot the protesters, we, the U.S., will shoot back. He also said we are locked and loaded. That's a pretty clear signal. And then he said there's going to be a heavy price to pay for the regime. Now, you put those statements and others that the president said help is on the way, people of Iran keep protesting, take over your government institutions. These are not messages of support, and I say this as a Democrat, these are not messages of support that you had coming out of the White House during the Obama years or the Biden years. There would be some symbolic gesture, the Obama White House or the Biden White House, or for that matter, the Bush White House, would say something along the lines of, hey, we support the protesters, we support peaceful protesters, but nothing in the sense of we're locked and loaded or we're going to shoot back. And that gave a lot of courage and a lot of ambition and support for the Iranian people to go on the streets. The government opened fire the first 2 nights. Estimates are as high as 20,000 people murdered, and that's coming from CBS News. This is not some fringe online outlet. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System, CBS, a major network TV here in the U.S. And they're saying it's as high as 20,000. Chances are we're going to find out the numbers are far higher. Now we have 3 options, or at least I can foresee 3 options. Based on what the president said last night, that he believes that the killing has stopped, 100% wrong, and there are no executions planned, also 100% wrong. It seems like he's looking for an off-ramp. If that happens to be the case, that is by far the worst-case scenario for the Iranian people and also for the U.S. and U.S. allies. That shows that the president drew a red line, didn't enforce it. It's terrible for American credibility, but also shows that the president backed off. But I'm not sure that's Trump. So there are 2 other options. Option 2, which is not great, not bad, but more sort of on the side of doing something, but not enough. Let's say when President Trump, told Assad to stop to stop the killings, and he didn't. The president hit a couple of air bases in Syria. He did something, but far from enough. If you do that in Iran and the regime survives, what's going to happen is they're just going to take the wrath. Intervention is either bad or unnecessary. America has a role to play, but this is not just about America's role. We have a lot of vested interest in making sure Iran goes a different direction. Imagine an Iran that doesn't support Hezbollah or Hamas. Imagine.
Well, Ari, that was actually, I wanted to ask you about that explicitly. We have only about a minute and a half left, but I want to ask you, the case has been made, I believe, for why it's in the interest of Iranians to change this regime. But what does the U.S. stand to gain from the fall of the Islamic Republic?
Iran is not Syria, is not Iraq, is not Afghanistan. And with I have accepted the criticism of many when I say Iraq and Afghanistan lost a great opportunity. They missed a great opportunity. It would have cost, the Iraqis millions of lives to get rid of Saddam. We did it for them. But anyhow, it didn't go the way we expected it to go. Iran does not have the same dynamics. Iran does not have the same ethnic or sectarian fabric. To add to that, the civil society in Iran and also the structure in Iran would hold. Now, we're not talking about a nation building. We're not talking about U.S. boots on the ground. What I'm talking about is sustained airstrikes that would decapitate and lead to the collapse of the regime. It is doable. And imagine, again, if we want to focus more on the Indo-Pacific, if the future of the world economy and our sort of the new Cold War, for lack of a better word, is with China and in the Pacific, we want to focus less and less on the Middle East. Well, let's resolve the biggest issue in the Middle East. For the past 47 years, it's been one primary issue, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, they come and go. These are little minor issues. They attack us, they kill us, but they are not states. These are not fully fledged states with oil reserves that can build, thousands of missiles. And the extreme right are both wrong when they say American intervention is either bad or unnecessary. America has a role to play, but this is not just about America's role. We have a lot of vested interest in making sure Iran goes a different direction. Imagine in Iran that doesn't support Hezbollah or Hamas. Imagine.
Well, Ari, that was actually, I wanted to ask you about that explicitly. We have only about a minute and a half left, but I want to ask you, the case has been made, I believe, for why it's in the interest of Iranians to change this regime. But what does the U.S. stand to gain from the fall of the Islamic Republic?
Iran is not Syria, is not Iraq, is not Afghanistan. And with I have accepted the criticism of many when I say Iraq and Afghanistan lost a great opportunity. They missed a great opportunity. It would have cost, the Iraqis millions of lives to get rid of Saddam. We did it for them. But anyhow, it didn't go the way. Iran does not have the same dynamics. Iran does not have the same ethnic or sectarian sort of fabric. To add to that, the civil society in Iran and also the structure in Iran would hold. Now, we're not talking about a nation building. We're not talking about U.S. boots on the ground. What I'm talking about is sustained airstrikes that would decapitate and lead to the collapse of the regime. It is doable. And imagine, again, if we want to focus more on the Indo-Pacific, if the future economy and our Islamic Republic of Iran, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, they come and go. These are little minor issues. They attack us, they kill us, but they are not states. These are not fully fledged states with oil reserves that can build, thousands of missiles and support hundreds of thousands of, Hamas and Hezbollah and Houthi and Hashd al-Sha'bi and you name it.
All right, well, we do have to leave it there, but I want to thank you so much for joining us today, Ari Aramesh.
Imagine earning your master's degree on top of Mount Carmel, where forest meets sea and where every day brings a new cultural, academic, and personal adventure. This is the multi-experience at U Haifa International. Here, students from around the world live and learn together in Israel's most culturally diverse city, meeting new people, discovering new perspectives, and shaping their own Israel experience.
There's people from different countries, from different religions and different languages. Somehow we are all very similar.
At U Haifa, academics meet real life. You don't just study, experience Israel up close. U Haifa International. Master your Israel experience.
Well, the United States has formally declared the start of phase 2 of its plan to end the war in Gaza. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff says the next stage will shift from a ceasefire to demilitarization, technocratic governance, and reconstruction, and warns that Hamas will face serious consequences if it fails to meet its commitments. ILTV's Devil Klein reports.
U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff announced the launch of Phase 2 of President Donald Trump's 20-point plan to end the war in Gaza, declaring a transition from ceasefire to demilitarization and civil governance. According to Witkoff, the new phase also marks the beginning of full demilitarization and reconstruction, with a primary focus on the disarmament of all unauthorized armed groups. Witkoff said Phase 1 had delivered historic results, including a maintained ceasefire, a massive increase in humanitarian aid, the return of all living hostages, and the remains of all but one of the 28 deceased hostages. Witkoff also thanked mediators in Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar for what he described as their indispensable pivotal role in making progress possible. However, the announcement comes amid continuing Israeli reservations. Israel has insisted that Hamas must first disarm and return the body of Ran Gvili, conditions that were not made prerequisites for the formal start of Phase 2. Notably, Witkoff's statement did not include the announcement of the International Board of Peace, which is expected to oversee the process. U.S. officials have struggled to rally broad international support amid skepticism over Hamas's disarmament and Israeli withdrawal.
As the United States moves forward with Phase 2 of President Donald Trump's Gaza plan, Israeli security officials are watching closely, warning that governance and reconstruction will only advance if security conditions are met and Hamas is removed from power. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz reports.
Phase 2 now officially begins with the formation of a 15-member Palestinian technocratic committee to run civil affairs in Gaza, demilitarization, stability, and eventual reconstruction. Israeli security sources say the committee members are familiar, most having deep ties to the Palestinian Authority and experience working with Israeli and international groups. Ali Shat, a former PA deputy minister and moderate Fatah. Key security roles include Sami Nasman, a retired PA security officer who will oversee internal affairs, central to preventing Hamas from operating behind the scenes. The committee will hold its first meeting at the U.S. Embassy facilities in Cairo, but no authority will be exercised in Gaza until structures, staffing, and security coordination mechanisms are in place. Hamas, despite claiming it will step aside, is pushing to keep the administrative bodies it set up after 2007. Israeli security officials say this is a red line. Any continued Hamas presence would undermine Phase 2. Reconstruction will be conditioned on security performance, starting with a pilot project in Rafah under close Israeli oversight.
As the unrest in Iran continues and speculation grows that the regime could be dragging Israel into another war, the Jewish state is preparing for a ballistic missile attack, one similar to the previous attacks by the regime. United Hatzalah, a crucial component in Israel's home front, is also preparing, conducting a missile drill just this past Tuesday to prepare for any scenario. ILTV's Devo Klein has more.
On United Hatzalah volunteers gather. In addition, United Hatzalah announced earlier its